following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hi, this is Ken Gidge, and this is The Art of Politics. Of course, this is the only show of its type because I am a Democrat, a liberal. Of course, Democrat liberals are the absolute best, but my partner over here happens to be a Republican conservative. How are you, Bill?
I'm doing well, Ken.
Bill, I see you.
We brought a guest with us today. Jennifer Horn is chair of the Republican State Committee, a good friend of mine. A dynamic leader of the party, and someone I'm proud to call a friend. So welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the invitation. Ken, I appreciate that you let me in the door even today. Thank you.
Well, don't start. I've already, and by the way, and I've already said this. You are in the Telegraph down in front of the Gene Shaheen's office holding a sign. Says, I apologize.
It
looks just like it.
I am not in the Telegraph holding any such sign. I will have to pick up a copy on my way home, find out who my double is somewhere here in town.
Once again, we find that reality defeats the Democrats. It's so sad.
It's you know, if I had time to be out visiting senators' offices, maybe I would be there, but that's not where I was.
And what do you do?
So, well, I'm chairman of the party, the Republican Party, and I'm also the director of development for the Salvation Army here in Nashua.
Congratulations.
So, well, thank you. I enjoy the work. I should take every opportunity I get to promote them. They do extraordinary work in our community. And, you know, I tell everybody the Salvation Army, they do so much that we're not even aware of. You know, they really function under the radar. They take care of our firefighters and our first responders when there's an emergency. They are offering children's programs to some of our neediest families in the community. They have a clothing pantry, a food pantry. And what I'm most proud of is that when we have people in our community who literally have nowhere else to turn, they turn to the Salvation Army and they're there for them. So I'm really very happy to be part of that.
When I was with WSMN for about 5-6 years, well, both stations, because I kept getting fired from one and going to the other, we did a lot with the Salvation Army. And a very important group. Right. And I know that when 9/11 took place, they went from here from Nashua to New York, and
they went from a lot of places around the country to New York. Yes. You know, one of the great things about the Salvation Army, I think, is that it reminds us that there is so much in our community that needs to happen that we can all be part of, regardless of where we differ. You know, where our difference of opinions might be on political issues or social issues. Organizations like the Salvation Army, they serve everybody. There's no litmus test at the door. If you need help, you know, they're there for you. And I love to see the broad array of business people and political folks throughout the community who come together to support them.
And you are a Democrat, of course.
Yeah, I am a Republican, of course, and but very happy to see the broad support that we get at the Salvation Army.
Yeah, you know, Jennifer, I think most people across the state know you in your role as Republican chair. And you know, this program is shown in a number of towns: Amherst, Nashua, Londonderry, Claremont, and
all great towns.
Yeah, and you know, I think what a lot of people who watch shows like this, they tend to look at people like state representatives, Ken and me, or you, who are active as chair of the party, and they view us in sort of a two-dimensional way, you know. You're a
Right.
Republican, good or bad, you're a Democrat, good or bad, you're a party chair, good or bad.
Right.
I think it would be really helpful if you could kind of outline who is Jennifer Horn, you know, where did you come
Sure.
from and what have your interests
You
in?
mean I can't, I've got to,
And this is one of the unique times you're not going to define the person before they have an
All right,
opportunity to talk
I
about
see.
themselves.
Well, that's very nice to have to have the chance to answer that question. And I'll answer it the same way I always have. First and foremost, I'm a mom. You know, I have 5 children. I come from a very large family. I'm one of 10 kids. And what people, you know, I tend to be maybe surprised at learning about me is I didn't come from a political family. None of my brothers and sisters, not my parents, you know, nobody, I'm the political one in our family. But I come to politics from the experience of having grown up in the environment that I did. My parents were very engaged in community service and in public service and taught us that government and politics was supposed to be about
from
service.
around here?
Actually from upstate New York, from
Okay.
upstate New York. And they taught us that, you know, my understanding of politics and government through my parents' experience or through their teaching is that it was supposed to be about service, that it was another form of community service. And that's really what drew me in years ago when I first decided to run for, excuse me, when I first decided to run for office. You know, my husband and I and our children have been very involved in various community organizations here in Nashua. We chose New Hampshire to come and raise our family. We got married when we were in New York, and we lived in Massachusetts briefly. And when our kids were very young, decided we wanted kind of a different life, a different path, and we chose New Hampshire and never looked back and never regretted it for a second.
Yeah, you mentioned you came from upstate New York, and at one point, I think it was when Gene Shaheen suggested to develop Patrick that I might be taken back to Massachusetts. We looked at the we looked at the makeup of the New Hampshire House, and at that point, 65% of the state representatives were born outside of New Hampshire.
Interesting.
And in fact, Gene Shaheen was born outside New Hampshire, so we've been trying to find a governor there who would take her, but you know, no, we
See,
can't
I'm
find
not
one.
the ones making those comments, I want to point
no,
out.
he's not.
So. But you know what? I think there's
When he stops
something really.
smiling, I know I'm going
Then you know you're in
then
trouble.
Then I'm quiet.
I do think that there is something genuinely unique and special about New Hampshire, both as far as our communities go, but also in the political sense as well. We are recognized around the country as being different, and in my opinion,
we're different.
But kind of a step up too. You know, our citizen legislature,
Explain that.
well, the fact that our legislators don't, in the state of New York, you can become a rich man serving in the assembly there, you know. In Massachusetts, it's a different story as well. Here in New Hampshire, we have 400 of our neighbors who serve in a very demanding position for nothing. I refuse the $100. I know, the $100. But you know, by the time you put gas in the car for a couple of sessions, that's long gone. So I think that's
Took a 20% pay cut myself.
that's right. See.
Cut down from 125 to 100.
That's
Oh,
what
wow.
happens.
does.
That's politics, Bill. You know,
Yeah,
one
I
day you're
know.
up, the next day you're down.
You know,
But I think that makes us really special. I think that's
it
good.
does, because it's funny. Some people may not know, but here it was the gentleman who was the Speaker of the House, and here I am, a lowly, just representative. I make 100, he made 125. I mean,
Well-
people don't get how important our legislature
The role is.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I would have to say, if we're trying to say who's up and who's down, probably the lowliest of any political position in the state is party chair. So I'm just, I don't get that $100 a month even. I mean a year. I don't even get my. But I think that you're right. I think sometimes, especially folks who have lived here for a very long time, we sort of take it for granted, or if you don't have the comparison of having lived in other states where it functions in a very different manner. But if you'll notice, you look at, and again, I'll use Massachusetts and New York as examples because that's where I've lived. We also don't have the level of corruption. We don't have the kind of scandals that other states deal with, for the most part, with their elected leaders as well. And I think that that's something else that comes through about New
It pervades
Hampshire.
all of politics here. Politics here is volunteering. It's a civic
Right.
duty.
It's sincere. It is much more
is.
sincere here than I think it is in other parts of the country.
I can recall the first office I was elected to was somebody asked me to run for school board in the town. I ran for school board, And I think there we got paid like $500 a year. And I was surprised.
Right,
You know, I was surprised.
right.
What we get paid for
Yeah,
this? This is,
right,
you know,
right.
and you have to actually, I think, get to the position of governor, if I'm not mistaken, in New Hampshire state government before you know, are paid enough money to live on.
Right. I don't even
that-
know what we pay our mayor in Nashua, to be honest with you, but
Yeah. And so I
It's
think,
$100,000, I believe.
is it really?
Yeah.
Is that an honest answer, or you just?
No, I believe it
that's
is, yeah.
So our mayors do okay, and our governor, but that's not common. That's not comparable to other states.
It is not at all.
So.
I always tell the story of a friend of mine who was a state representative in the first term I was elected, went out to California, was turning around the State House out in Sacramento, and gave his card to someone, and you know, they said, oh, state representative from New Hampshire. No time at all, he was in front of the Speaker of the Assembly there, I think they call it. And the discussion came around to, how much do you get paid, state representative from New
Yes.
Hampshire? He said, well, 100. And the Speaker looked at him and said, well, you know, that's not bad. You're a small state. We get $110,000 a year here. And he goes, no, Mr. Speaker, $100 a year. The Speaker was incredulous. And that's the
It's
same thing
another
I found when I would go and talk with other speakers. And
Right, and we take on a significant expense. It's not just that you don't get paid; it costs you significantly, you know, in many different ways. And
In many different, let me give you one. In 1 year, I was in 3 accidents.
oh gosh,
Axle fell out of a truck 20 days ago. My car's still being repaired. I almost got killed, rear-ended, and this year going up, snowstorm, 6 of us went off the road.
wow.
So 3 accidents in a year. So no one wants to ride with
Right.
me now.
Yeah, I was about, don't offer us a ride. I don't need to
I'm just
carpool.
trying to.
But
so-
there's a lot. There's a lot
And-
to
and-
it.
and
Absolutely.
as no, you know, as Ken knows, and I know because we've run a number of times and won a number of times, lost
That's
a
right.
few
That's right.
times. It's an honor to represent the people, and we do it for that honor. But it makes for a better legislature. You know, one of the things I always tell people is that just naturally, a third of the New Hampshire legislature turns over every term.
Right.
Just people coming and going. You know, when you go out to these legislative conferences, and if you're a legislative leader, one of the questions that always comes back to you is, what are your term limits? Do you have term limits in your state? And I explain, we don't need them here.
No, we don't need
Right.
term
Because
limits.
people
There's
move
significant
along.
turnover.
Yeah.
Well, and that's one of the great things. That's one of the bonuses. I hate to say that you don't deserve to be paid. I think probably you do, but that's one of the natural benefits to having a citizen legislature.
Absolutely.
You know, if you're a young person and you're working to support a family, you can't afford to do this for more than 1 or 2 terms.
And one other thing I think is very important about New Hampshire, and that is the women who are in
Absolutely.
particular offices. I mean, we have the Speaker of the House is a woman, 2 senators, 2 federal Congress people are women. Yourself, I mean, you're running the Republican Party, and we were the first when you were Speaker. I believe we were the first state in the United States to have more women senators than any place else.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. It's not just in the top level of leadership. Our state house has for a long time had a comparatively high level of participation by women on both sides of the aisle.
And maybe it's dangerous to say this, but I think we are getting where we should be on that issue, where no one asks, is this a
Right.
man or a woman? It's basically, is this person diligent? Are they
Right.
honest? Do they care about me? Do they know about me? Do they have my approach on issues?
Well, I
And
mean,
those are the questions we ought to be asking.
and my position I've always tried to reject gender politics. I think it's a mistake to look at any organization, including political organizations, by is there some sort of mandated quota, men and women? We want the best possible qualified people to be holding these positions. And when I ran my campaigns, obviously it was often part of the conversation when you're being interviewed that you're a woman, or I think that our party may have been the first woman that we nominated to federal office, those kinds of, and as much as that's something we want to celebrate.
You were.
Yes,
the
I
first,
was.
yes, I know that.
And as much as that's something we want to celebrate, I don't want anybody to vote for me because I'm a woman. I want them to vote for me because I can articulate the values and the principles that we share, because they believe that I'm qualified to affect solutions, that they believe I will go and do the job in an enthusiastic and fair manner. And I think that that's what we want to look for in all of our representatives, no matter what level they are. And you're right, I think that in New Hampshire, we're going now, you know, with all due respect, we'd like to replace some of those women that currently hold those positions with maybe some different men or
Yes,
women.
and the
So,
issue should
when
be-
it comes to the
And
Republicans
yeah,
versus
yeah.
the
But
Democrat
the issue shouldn't
principles.
be, you know, man or woman.
Exactly,
It really should be,
exactly.
you know, what does this person know about
Issues.
me, and issues. and
Co-
all.
You know, a lot
You know,
of people
and I-
talk about this. Guess what? Up here in New Hampshire, we do it.
Right.
They
Right,
talk about
exactly.
this.
One of the
You're right, Ken.
disappointments I've seen on the national level, and I thought we were getting to this area nationally as we are here in New Hampshire, at least on gender differences, where it doesn't matter anymore what your race is. And you know, if there's one good thing that I thought was going to fall out of the election of Barack Obama, and it might have been the only good thing, is that we would walk past this issue of what is the race of a man, what is the race of a woman, but rather, you know, as we're here with gender politics, which is, it doesn't make any difference. I want to know. And
I
you know,
think, yeah.
and the disappointment has
What's,
been,
yeah, what is it? Just one.
the disappointment is that we have racialists such as
Oh.
Eric Holder and Al Sharpton and even Barack Obama at this point forming our national discussion. Okay, I want to make it clear, I didn't say racist or racialist, people who ask us to consider race as an issue.
And are
And
these
that-
all
that's-
are these all Democrats, by the way?
In that case, they are.
Yes. But the Republican Party traditionally has been the party against race, the southern part of the country.
You got to stop there.
So
That's-
because
that's-
now you want to
that's-
come up to today's date.
No, that's not true. The higher percentage of the Republican members of Congress voted for the Civil Rights Act of 1965 than did Democrats. The reason we did not pass civil rights.
Excuse me.
You can look that up.
I
True.
did.
If
I
you-
just finished reading
No.
the biography of Johnson.
If you look at all the attempts to pass civil rights legislation in the 40s and 50s, they were opposed by Democrats from the South. Unfortunately, the Democratic Party was the party of slavery, Jim Crow, and now it's a party of affirmative action, which again is making us race sensitive.
This will happen to us, you see, because he's incorrect about this, and I will prove it later, but maybe not this show.
You can look it up. I mean,
What I
it's-
would
it-
say, outside, you know, beyond that issue that I think that can be also be wrapped in with a lot of others, is I think that what a lot of people, and I'm probably on both sides of the aisle, are really very disappointed in, is not just that issue, but that so many issues have been used to divide rather than unite. And I think that
Give me about Obama. Give
well,
me a couple.
I would talk about economically.
Economically, things are better. Housing prices
immigration.
are up.
So,
Immigration policy, it's the only
I would-
Obama administration that's doing it. And matter of fact, don't they have one, just pass something? Democrats and the Republicans are fighting it in Congress?
and what we have is an economy where we've got the $16 trillion in debt, the highest level of spending under any president
And
ever.
is that funny how our...
Are these the rules on this show, or is he
No,
allowed
no,
to?
yeah,
Or was
no,
was
he
I
will.
supposed to wait till he? How does this work?
we have to
How does this work?
We have to
And-
remain.
And the
Ken,
point that
because-
I think that I was
because
trying
he has
to
a lot,
make
Ken
is,
has a lot of slogans he wants
I-
to
Well,
Well,
I
I
know
think the
that, but
point that I
people
was
just
trying
keep
to make
going on. And, you
is
know.
that it's been very divisive. It's been very divisive. You two do something here that we're not seeing our elected leaders at the highest levels of government do. They have not been able to accomplish. It's been a very divisive
It's hard.
administration, I think. Well, and as we see, it's not easy. But we elect people to do the work that's not easy. That's why we elect those individuals, to take on the tough challenges and have the difficult conversations and to do it in a way that will move our nation forward. I think whether you're talking, regardless of what the issues are, I think the greatest disappointment that is felt universally is how divisive and how divided our country has become
Who?
over the last few years.
The last few years? By
I think
who?
it's easy. Would you like a list of names
No,
of Americans?
give me one. Would you
I
say
think that-
Obama has divided the country?
I think that
Business
this
is getting
president,
better?
I think you
Real
find
estate
a
prices
real
are
hard
getting
time finding a whole lot of business
More
people that would
are
go with
coming
that
back from
conversation.
other countries to bring the businesses here?
We are in the sixth year
Economy
of a
is
recession.
going up.
We're
The-
in a
the-
6-year
we have a-
recession.
Which was brought to us by the administration of who?
Recessions come and go.
By who?
By no one. By the Democrat Congress, if you want to know.
We
Democrat
can-
Congress
Oh, no,
which promoted laws that produced a housing
And
crisis.
the Iraqi war had nothing to do with several
I
trillion
don't know.
dollars.
You should ask folks like Hillary Clinton and John Kerry who voted,
Who voted for
it.
it? Yeah.
what
Or
it-
Bush who
what it-
started it, but
or
we
what
can't.
it did. So you know,
She's over there looking, saying,
I'm
do I
I'm
get
thinking
into
I
it?
don't have to get in on this conversation. This is just fine.
You know, there unfortunately is division in the country that's being promoted at the highest levels of government. It used to be, and you said you read Eisenhower's biography.
Both
off your
Eisenhower
and
and, yeah.
Johnson, and you know, for better or worse, these are men that when they got them to the level of chief executive of the country, they began to understand that I represent all the people, and my job in part is to draw together all the people, to keep conversations going, not to say there's good Americans and bad Americans. And we've seen with the Obama administration that they have chosen to say there's bad Americans as the 1%.
Oh.
There's bad Americans as the men
on.
who are
And-
warring
But the
on
president's
women.
language
There's
has been very
there's bad
divisive.
Americans, there's white Hispanics.
And
And here's another-
Romney
but
said
here's another-
47%
here's another-
of the people. Come
There
on.
was
Govern-
nothing
no.
more than there was nothing more than a political analysis of where my vote is. We all do it all the time.
Excuse me,
There was nothing- he wasn't-
47%?
he was just saying
right
where-
47%
He was
off.
saying, "Where is my vote?" That's
Here-
the discussion was a private discussion where he was saying, "Where is my vote?" He wasn't doing what Barack Obama has done recently in his speech on the Zimmerman case, saying there are bad people out there. You might think they're Americans, they're bad people, they're white Hispanics, and you know, we see this in so many different areas.
wait a
But
minute.
I don't think that's the only area, though. One that I find particularly frustrating myself is this whole, concept of a Republican war on women. When we look at what the types of policies that the two different parties represent and promote versus what they think is important to women,
So
or what the
talk
role
about
that
New
women
Hampshire
play.
or-
I think I think nationally, I think everywhere, because I think the core values of these two parties, one is very clearly, in my opinion, promoting women, and one very clearly does
Oh,
not.
And who's
When-
and
well,
who's
when you look
supporting
at-
women? The Republicans?
When you look at the policies
Is
that
it the Republicans?
yeah, of course.
Okay.
When you look at the difference in the policies, when you have women are starting more small businesses than men in our country, when women are making the majority of the healthcare decisions, when we are making the majority of the consumer purchases in this nation, and which party promotes a fiscally responsible government policy? Which party promotes limited spending, more taxes, more money left, fewer taxes, more money left in your pocket, more money to take home to
Okay,
support your children and to
I know
raise
you
your
can go on,
family?
Mace, you're really good at this, but I want to stop at one point where women making, decisions regarding health care. Here in the state of New Hampshire, we can expand Medicaid, which would put 48,000 more people on insurance. 61% of them are women. It's the Republicans who do not want this.
The problem-
61% of the women of the 48,000 want to make the decision. They want it. Republicans won't
If you're
give it
going to
to them.
argue a point, you got to have facts that are.
Did you just say that 61% of women want,
No,
you've spoken to
of
the women? Would they-
48,000.
That was
First of
an
all,
extraordinary
first of
number.
all,
Women.
48,000 has never come up. What has come
Right.
up is 58,000, and they're saying 58,000 people will come on Medicaid. Of those 58,000, 33,000 already have private insurance.
Thank you.
They're going to be
That-
thrown off.
and they're
of-
going to be pushed off of their
and so
own private insurance.
And again, if we look at that University of Virginia study, it shows that if you have Medicaid, you're 13% more likely to die in insurance and in surgery.
Don't believe this.
Yeah,
Please stop this.
I know you don't want to deal with
no.
this, but you got to go talk to the University of
So
Virginia.
what you're
Any
saying
plan-
is if you
but you're-
don't have insurance,
You're promoting
you're
a
far
plan that's
better
going to
off and
push
will live
30
longer.
You're promoting, no.
Yes,
what we-
it's a poor way to get medical coverage. You're 97% more likely to die than if you have private insurance. So here's what we're doing, Ken. In order to throw more money at a problem, we're saying to 33,000 people, we're going to put something in place so your employers will get rid of their private insurance because it's going to be too costly. You'll go on Medicaid. You'll have much less of a chance of surviving surgery, for example, just so we can say that we put 20,000 people who are uninsured now and would do better if they just went into a hospital
Are
and
you,
got
are you
insurance.
trying to tell me, or any of you trying to tell me here, that putting 20,000 people on insurance is a bad
No,
thing.
we're telling you that pushing 33,000 people out of their private insurance is a bad thing. To the Bill is very articulate.
that's
Bill is very
bad.
articulate on the numbers and the details, but then from the big picture, from the philosophy behind it, from the principle behind it, is a party or a policy, an organization that thinks that it is better for government to step in and push you where you don't want to go, rather than to allow the individual to make the choice. You said that, talking about healthcare choices, to allow the individual to make the choice, and to be in a position where Bill is responsible for his family, and I can make the decisions for my family, and you can make the decisions for your family. And it's literally, it is a one more broken promise. The president no longer says, if you like your doctor, you can keep him, and if you like your insurance, you'll be able to stay with it. He stopped saying that, but he used to when he was pushing this plan.
He used to say, no new taxes.
Okay,
And finally
did.
somebody read the bill.
yeah,
So-
I've
And
got to
there's
stop you
coercive
guys because we only have about 3 minutes. You sure you don't want to stay for another half hour?
I wish I could. I'll come back. I
Oh,
wish
good.
I
I
could.
appreciate
I
that.
appreciate
Yeah, we
it.
really do.
I appreciate the opportunity.
You have a website
so-
or something you'd like to tell our audience?
Sure, nhgop.org. We've got a great new website. We invite folks to go and check it out and learn more about where we are and who we are and how to get involved. And I'll just say, kind of back to where we started with this whole conversation, is that I can respect the fact that I got a lot of neighbors who don't agree with me politically. Some of my best friends are Democrats, and I've still got friends who aren't embarrassed to admit that they are my friends. I think that's a great thing. And I think one of the great things about New Hampshire is that we can engage in this debate in a respectful manner. But there is no question that as we look at the future, what kind of future we want for our children, it has to be a future that is based on limited government, limited taxation, because that is the only way that we can lead to unlimited opportunity for all children. And that's always been what being in politics has been about for me, and it's why I'm a Republican.
Well, I think I can say she will be back.
Great.
Let's hope so.
Okay,
And
Bill?
again, I want to repeat, nhgop.org. It's a great website. My website is o'brienforcongress.com. You can reach me at an email address, o'brienforcongress@gmail.com, or you can call me, 603-620-8710.
That's
of
very
course-
generous of you to be handing out your phone number. I love that.
Oh,
Good
yes,
for you.
we definitely do. My name is Ken
Terrific.
Gidge, as people know already. And by the way, I'm an Andy Custer fan, and that's our agreement that he mentions this. And I will be supporting Andy Custer. But you can get me at Gidge World, which is an art site, or Facebook. Befriend me. You guys on Facebook?
I'm on Facebook.
All right.
Facebook.
And telephone number, 603-864-9332. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you,
thanks so
Bill.
much.
Terrific.
See you next time.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.